Well, start of a new week. So, are we going or what? There we go. There's a little lag. Took 6 seconds for my computer to tell me it was actually running. All right. So I guess after this, I will be posting the last two pieces of artwork for the week that just ended. Um, we lost power last night. Like completely lost power. And it's like, it's not a big deal. Like, you can keep doing stuff on the computer, but turns out you can't do live broadcasts if you don't have power running to your router. And it's also really hard to see what I'm doing when it's dark out and all the lights are out. And there's just something about oil painting with uh, odorless mineral spirits and lit candles that seemed like a very bad idea. Yeah. So you might be able to start to see some of the prep I started with last night before it happened. I will do the remainder of it tonight. Um, but this week is about video games. This is the last of the categories that I would normally do for my channel, where I review and generate creative prompts for. So, like book, movie, board game, so on and so forth, get through taste tests, art or music, and then video games is the last category. Now, the video games that I've been dabbling with are a little more old school. They're not the first person shooter Overwatch or uh, what is it? It's a new one that came out, Apex something or other. Um, so like that's not usually my style of game. I do like the animated shorts for Overwatch. I think I've got some of that coming up in the coming week as a review, sharing it with a friend. But my my games when I was younger were things like the Dragon Warrior or the original NES role playing games, or there's a series of games called the Gold Box games from SSI, and there were things like Pool of Radiance or Azure Bonds, that kind of stuff. Curse of the Azure Bonds, based off of Dungeons and Dragons stuff. I loved those games. I squandered entire summers playing those types of games. Um, but those are sort of my favorite types of games. But there are aspects of game design and ideas that I think I want to explore by making games. And there are a couple different ways to do that. Now, there are different types of games, and I'm not sure what kind I'm going to do this week. I don't know how many I'm going to do this week. I There's an inclination in my head that I'd like to do more than one because there are several that I want to play with. But I also know I have a tendency to overcomplicate what I'm doing and make it way more work than it needs to be. And so, with that in mind, I'm sort of aiming for not doing that. I've already got a lot on my plate. I do not need to be plotting three different types of games with three different types of game making engines for three different storylines and types of gameplay in the time that I have remaining to plan my trip to go interview people in Hawaii. Like, I'm still trying to organize where I'm going to sleep and the flights and whether or not I need certain identifications to travel within the United States. Um, it's it's already complicated enough, and that's on top of the day to day life that one has to live. So, day to day life, flight, and preparing for Hawaii. finishing off some of the projects that I want to be done with by the end of the month, and making multiple video games sounds a little steep. I think I'm going to go a little easier and just say I will do one. If I have room, I might do a stretch goal of another one. But right now, let's just see if we can do one. There's time enough in this year to do more. So that brings me down to like the hard part sometimes is, okay, so if we're going to do one game, what's the game? What style of game are we going to do? Like I have ideas for I guess they call them visual novels as games. I have like an actual role playing game that can be played on YouTube that I'd love to try. Um, is it doable? And how would I best do that? And I have some ideas for. All right, I'll just lay some of these out. Ideas that I have had percolating in the back of my mind are Captain Mr. Space Ninja. I can elaborate on that at a different point, but half the fun of that one is seeing it unfold as it's meant to unfold. I have an idea for a game that was. I joined a game jam and then life fell apart, so I didn't get to do the game I was going to do. But the prompt for the game jam was called Presents. It was actually something right before Christmas. And so the game prompt was presents, but they deliberately left it vague enough that that could be interpreted in multiple ways. It doesn't necessarily have to be Christmas presents. It could be um, being present at a moment. Like they didn't even decide which spelling or grammatical sense they were working with. Um, so I came up with an idea for that. It's a little hard to execute, and I'm not sure um, if some of the ways I have of making a game can do that yet. I may have to go through and start like wholly from scratch to build a game because some of the mechanics, some of the systems that exist just don't account for a mechanic that behaves that way. And um, I've had an idea since I was in high school for a game uh, that's hard to describe. It has a lot of features of like the old Pokemon uh, Red, Blue, and Yellow original versions, as well as Dragon Warrior and some of my favorite games like that from when I was younger. So, like, I want to do that game, but I also have a tendency to make that more and more complicated until the barrier to entry becomes so high that I'm going to have to do it at some point. But um, like, how much of that great idea that I built it into do I let go to get the original version out? Like, how minimalized can I pull that down? How far down can I take that and get a viable product from it again? Uh, and it's hard to say because, like, I don't know. At its simplest, you can make a very simple playable RPG game with potentially some of the quirks that make that a unique storyline. But to make it a fully rich game as I envision it now takes too much. So what parts do you trim? Where do you cut that off? And so I'm not sure about that one yet. And that was that's an idea I came up with so long ago that it almost seems inappropriate to use that right now. I have another game that I wanted to work on that's based off of a web comic that uses one of the art styles that I did this past week as the art style of the game to tell a story that I was writing out for this epic saga of a video game. So it's just sort of like I have no shortage of ideas of games to make. Um, I think the real question is what games can we do in a week, maybe 2 weeks, because I got till the end of the month really to satisfy my need to do all of these projects by the end of February. But I want to kind of see if I can do this in a week. And I also want to maybe experiment with a whole new idea. Because, like, there are different types of games. There are, like, clicker games, which are just simple, like, automating and building kind of games where you just build greater and greater success levels through more progressively difficult levels. Uh, Cookie Clicker, I think, is one of the better known ones. Um, they're also called idle games. They can be left running in the background. Once you achieve a certain level, you can automate certain actions within the game. Um, there's some twists on that I'd like to play too, where instead of click for reward, like a what is it, a Skinner box? Instead of doing that, um, instead of like a new costume for the character or like an upgrade to a building so you can generate more cookies per click now, like I kind of want to build a story structure that you can only unlock more of the mystery or the success narrative by progressing through the grind essentially of what you do. And so it's like I don't know, maybe I could play with that a little bit. But then there's another type of game. It's like the I forget what they call it, but they're oftentimes super simplistic. Flappy Birds is one sort of like that, or whatever that the flapping bird thing, where the goal is to just keep getting through those pipes and get better and better at mastering that skill by tapping the bird to keep it flapping. Now, that's sort of one of the ways to do that type of game. There's also it has parallels to like old games like Tetris, where the goal isn't necessarily to beat a boss and gain new skills. It's really just to see like they're sort of like fidget spinners to a certain degree, but they're like little bits of puzzles that you can plan and try to work further and further through it than you did the last time and get a higher and higher score. It's not quite a clicker game. It's not an idle game because it's not something you just leave running. But it's not like a complex narrative, and it's not a you know a story in which decisions change the course of events in the game. Like, I mean, to a certain degree, like with the Tetris game, deciding to put a piece here instead of there may change how long you last. But the consequence is really just like how many points can you rack up at the end of the game. It's not like a plot point. Um, so there's that kind of thing, and that might be a place to start with. And I can do something like that. There's, like I said, the visual novels, which are essentially stories with participation from the player. And I would almost rank it as like a holodeck experience. Visual novels are like the Star Trek Next Generation holodeck to a certain degree. And then I could build an RPG, a very simple RPG in a week. Um, don't know how I feel about doing that. Like, I think I really need to sit down and like crunch out what makes the most sense. But the thing is, each one of these would use a different tool. For a clicker game or a Tetris-like game or a Flappy Birds kind of game, uh, I could probably use BuildBox, which I do have. I did purchase a year's usage of. Um, Not really using it a lot of it right now because I'm a little busy with other things, but um, I could do that. Uh, I could get RPG Maker to make an RPG, and I have a couple of other things I was looking at potentially doing. Was let's see, one's called Twinery, open source tool for telling interactive nonlinear stories. RPG Maker. RenPy is a visual novel engine. And then I have BuildBox that I can do. There's Unity that you can do. You could build from scratch in Python. I know at one point I was playing around with a course I was taking where the teacher said, if you do this, and this, it's like it's like making a Mad Lib. And I'm like, this is nothing like a Mad Lib. And so just out of frustration, I went off and built a Mad Lib and Python because like that's the way it's supposed to be. So I could make word games. I could do like word searches or maze builders. Um, I could do a couple simple different kind of like arcade games like Asteroids or some side scrollers using either BuildBox or Scratch. Scratch is a lot easier. It's free too. So if other people wanted to do something like that, they could do that. But you can't really market anything out of Scratch, and I'm not sure what the marketability of something like Twinery or RenPy are. I think you can market or sell your things from there. RPG Maker looks like you can do sales of games. So it's sort of like part of the appeal of doing these projects this week or these last, I guess we're coming up on 7 weeks now, right? Was to take a concept from idea to a saleable product, sort of. Uh, it's sort of like not just having the things you create um, just be like free creative uh, things to like I share them because I like sharing them, but I kind of want people who are watching this series to get the idea that, oh, like if I want to do paintings, here's how I can, make a painting and sell prints of it. If I want to write a book, here's how I could write a book and publish it. Here's how I could, you know, make this hobby pay for itself, or maybe make this a side gig or a passive income stream. If I build a series of romance novels and publish them through Kindle Direct Publishing, um, I may only sell one or two per month, but if I get one or two sales per month for the rest of my life, that money from 50 different novels per book gets one sale per month, getting $50 to $70 a month sometimes from the sale of your previously made works. Yeah, that's not a huge amount of money, but it's passive income. It's income you'd not get any other way. And if you do that for lots of things, you can get a pretty substantial amount coming in at the end of the month. And it's a food budget or whatever else you need to do for a creative thing you did once and are not doing anymore, but continue to profit from having done. It helps support you exploring and sharing your creativity and creating things. So, like, where I'm going with this is I kind of want to make sure that at the end of the day, what I make in this for a video game is something that demonstrates how to take from an idea all the way to something that can be sold. Doesn't have to be, but can be. So I'm looking at potentially that cuts down the potential methods by which I do this. So I'm not sure about Twinery. I can look that up tonight. And if that's the case, this is less likely to be something I do as a visual novel. So Twinery and Ren'Py are possibly things that I won't use right now, simply because I'm uncertain on whether or not I can take them out to sale. RPG Maker does let you do that. I do believe there are some limiting factors on that. So it's not like super hard. And I think BuildBox is, if I build anything in BuildBox, I can sell it on any kind of game server that it can be played on. But the trick to that is BuildBox has a steep purchase price. I mean, RPG Maker is like $20. BuildBox per month is not too bad, but by the end of the year, you're paying 200 something bucks. I think I got it during a sale. So yeah, I think what I end up designing will be heavily influenced by that factor. So I think right now what we're looking at is RPG Maker or BuildBox. I don't think I could do something on Scratch and sell it. I could probably try building something from the ground up in Python. I don't have the skills to do that yet. So I kind of want to put that off to the side till some other time, because this is not really the time to try to teach myself to do a full-on programming of a game from the ground up. Now, Twine is an open source tool for telling interactive, nonlinear stories. I don't know enough about that yet. I'll look into that. So really, we're looking at Ren'Py and Twine to see if I can make something, a product by the end of this. But outside of that, I'm pretty sure my two options are RPG Maker and BuildBox. And just for the sake of it, let's say because I'm already paying for BuildBox, I will create something with BuildBox and RPG Maker. The RPG Maker one I'm looking at is RPG Maker 2003, which is the simplest, cheapest at $20. I think they have one that's $25. That's a little bit better, and I may look at that one. Either way, I may be doing an RPG Maker and a BuildBox game. But which one do I favor first? And, RPGs tend to be bigger story, a lot more work. BuildBox games can be simpler and faster. So I may focus on doing a BuildBox game and see if I can get it done with enough time to get a start and proof of game concept for RPG Maker. Because they are other ends of the spectrum. As near as I can tell, RPG Maker is affordable in its lower price range for the older versions of the RPG Maker. But BuildBox is possible to build side-scroller and simpler, faster games to make. So BuildBox is more expensive, but can do a different type of game set. RPG Maker is cheaper, but takes a more laborious kind of game design. So I'll play with both of them, I think, and I guess tomorrow I'll have to come up with the game ideas and plots and storyline for them. I kind of want to stop this at 30 minutes, so we're getting close to that. And following this, I will do 2 oil paintings, I guess, to finish off Art Week, because I couldn't do it last night. And so we are officially starting a new week while finishing an old week and planning the rest of this all out. All right. So the plan is to do an RPG and a sort of arcade style game or a clicker game. I don't really want to do a clicker game. I may play with clicker games later. Idle games are something that I could probably put together relatively easily. Not where I want my focus to be right now. I want to build a game with at least some fun goal. All right, so that's where we are right now, and I will see you tomorrow for the writing and plotting. I guess we'll call it that. It's mostly going to be an update on where I am in the decision of how the game is, what the game is, and how it's going to play. All right, so thanks for joining me, and I will see you tomorrow.